Good morning, everyone. Today we will discuss the concept of stereoisomerism. Stereoisomerism is a very basic concept of organic chemistry. Generally, it has been seen in the organic chemistry and especially the organic compounds. So we all are aware of the concept of isomerism, then the different types of isomerism. So what forms the very basis of this stereoisomerism? We will discuss about that. So stereoisomerism generates a new branch of organic chemistry, that is stereochemistry. So stereochemistry, it is also known as the three-dimensional chemistry, because stereochemistry is when you study the three-dimensional configuration of different groups or atoms around the molecule, in the molecule, and this three-dimensional study is actually what it is, the stereochemistry. So this three-dimensional configuration of the groups or atoms or molecules, this actually decides the property of the molecule, and therefore it becomes really important. So, what is stereochemistry? It is study of the arrangement of atoms in space in the 3D structure and its effect on physical, chemical, and biological properties. So, we will soon we will know that the three-dimensional configuration, the orientation of the molecule in three-dimensional, it is not that it is affecting the property of the molecule and the groups itself. So, what is the importance? Like we can take the example of pharmaceutical chemistry. In the pharmaceuticals, we have different type of drugs, and these drugs, they may have different type of functional groups present in them. These functional groups, they can be oriented in different directions. Maybe you have seen the structural formula of a drug molecule. It is really a complex molecule, and so many groups are present inside a drug molecule. So these molecules, these groups present in the drug molecule, they can be oriented in different manners. So here you can see in this diagram, if the molecule, this is the, suppose this is the drug molecule, at this carbon atom, if the orientation of the group, it has COO negative, that is carboxylic acid group, then ammonium group, NH3 plus and H. So if the direction of the groups is like this, then what will happen? These groups will fit into these containers, right? The H will go into this, ammonium will go into this container, and the carboxylic acid group, it will go into this container. But if the orientation is different, now what happens? Now the molecule cannot fit here. So this can be a receptor site for a drug molecule, and merely the orientation of the group itself, it decides the activity of the drug. So generally in the organic chemistry, the orientation, this 3D configuration, it matters a lot. So let us see a few examples. Now, if you can see carefully, this solid wedge, this represent that the ammonium group is towards the side of the viewer, and this carboxylic acid is away from the side of the viewer. So it is on the back side of the molecule, which you can just find out that it is represented by this dash bond. So this dash actually represent that the group is actually behind the molecule, away from the viewer. And now what happens? Simply the spatial arrangement has changed. There is no change in the functional group. There is no change in the bonding pattern. But the only change is now the ammonium group is in the plane of the molecule. This hydrogen is towards the viewer, and your carboxylic acid is away from the viewer. So only one thing has changed, and now the molecule has lost its activity. So you can see few examples like here bupropion. This is a drug, commonly known drug, and it is used to treat fever. So in the S configuration, we will later on see in this chapter that how we determine the S and R configuration of the molecule. So the S isomer of this ibuprofen, this is optically active and it is used as a drug. But in the R isomer, when it is in the R configuration, this becomes biologically inactive, and now this cannot be used as a drug. So the molecule is same, formula is same, bonding is same, everything is same. What is changed in these two isomers? Only the presence of this methyl group. In the S isomer, the methyl group is away from the viewer, the dash bond you can see, and in the R form, it is towards the viewer. So in the R configuration, it is not showing biological activity simply due to change in the PD location of this methyl group. Similarly, here in the L-DOPA, this is used to treat the Parkinson disease. So R isomer in which your ammonium is towards the viewer. Okay, it is shown by the wedge bond. So we will later on see how the groups are represented in their three-dimensional position. So this solid wedge actually represents that the ammonia, the amide is actually towards the viewer. So this is optically active and we can use it as a drug. But simply if you change the position of this amide group and now if you send it behind the molecule, if it is away from the viewer, behind the molecule. So what happens? It is now the S isomer and this L-DOPA has now lost the biological activity. So you can see that only the spatial arrangement of a group, how it affects the activity of a drug, activity of a molecule. Like here you can see the malic acid and fumaric acid. What has changed in these two compounds? Only the arrangement of this carboxylic acid and hydrogen, right? In the malic acid, both the carboxylic group, they are present on the same side. So we call it a cis isomer. And in the fumaric acid, both the carboxylic acid, they are present on the different sides. So now we get a trans isomer. So what has changed here? There is no change in the bonding. There is no change in the formula. There is no change in the molecule itself. But what has changed? Only the orientation, only the location of the carboxylic group inside the molecule in three-dimensional space. This has changed. So now, merely due to this small change, what has happened? The melting point of the malic acid is 130 degree, but the melting point of this trans isomer, that is fumaric acid, now it has increased to just double of this. So it becomes 287 degrees Celsius. So we can see here that the spatial arrangement of the molecule, the spatial arrangement of the group inside a particular molecule, they actually affect the physical properties of the molecule, their biological properties, and also their chemical properties. So again, there is an example of a drug. This is the R salbutamol, which is used to treat the bronchospasm, that is the lung disease. So in the R configuration, you can use this drug. But if it is having the S configuration, simply the change in the location of this hydroxide group. So you cannot use it as a drug. So what happens here? Simply the position of the group inside the three-dimensional space of the molecule, it is governing the properties, and therefore the stereochemistry, it is really very important. So what happens here in case of these drugs, the R enantiomer, it can fit on the binding site of the receptor. What is the receptor? Whenever we are consuming a drug, it actually attaches itself to any of the receptor present on the cell wall. You know that cell membrane. In human body, we have so many cells. It is composed of so many cells, and every cell has a membrane over it. So these membranes are having receptors, and the drug molecule, if they are oriented in a particular manner, in a certain configuration, then they can be attached on the cell membrane, the binding site of the receptor present on the cell membrane. But if the configuration is changed, like here in the case of S enantiomer, if the configuration is changed, now what happens? Now this molecule cannot bind itself on the receptor site. So what has changed here? What has changed? Only the 3D orientation of this particular group, due to which the molecule was showing optical activity, due to which the molecule was showing the biological activity. Now what happens? It has lost its biological activity, and then such type of molecule cannot be used as a drug. So this forms establish the significance of stereochemistry, why it is so important, why you have to look into this concept. So we know that what is isomers? These isomers are non-identical molecules that have the same molecular formula. If I have a simple empirical formula is given to me, so many possible arrangements could be possible in that case for that particular chemical formula. So these all different type of configurations possible from a simple empirical formula, they are called the isomers. So isomers are non-identical molecules, and you can distinguish them on the basis of their physical property, like on the basis of their melting point, on the basis of their chemical property, and of course on the basis of their biological property. So even when they have the same molecular formula, the molecules they can have different properties, and they are called isomers. Now these isomers they can be of two different types. We can have constitutional isomers, and we can have stereoisomers. So what is the difference between these two? In the case of constitutional isomers, same molecular formula. Yes, because they are isomers, so they will have same molecular formula, but they are different in their constitution. Constitution is what, like how their atoms are attached together. What is the possibility of a binding between the atoms? So just that makes a difference here, and we get the constitutional isomers. So this type of isomerism, it arises merely due to the order of connectivity of atoms. Then the second type of isomerism we can have is stereoisomers. So stereoisomers in this case we have same molecular formula, therefore they are isomers, but they can have same type of bonding as well. But the only difference is the arrangement of atoms in the three-dimensional space. This makes a difference here, and now the two isomers they are showing different properties. Like in the previous slides, we have seen the R isomer and S isomer of different drug molecules. One isomer is optically active, one isomer is biologically active, and other is biologically inactive. So both the molecules they are having the same formula, same chemical formula, but showing different biological properties. So isomers, you can identify them on the basis of their different properties. The first type of isomerism is constitutional isomers. Constitutional isomers are when you have different compounds with the same molecular formula. So a molecular formula is given to you, and from that formula you can generate different possibilities of bonding. So you get different constitutional isomers. So, the constitutional, or you say the structural isomers, what are their properties? They have different IUPAC names, right? Both the isomers they will have different names. So, according to the rules of IUPAC, you have to name the carbon, and you have to give number to the carbon atom. Then, according to that number, you identify the group present on it. So, the position of the groups actually change in different isomer, and when you name them according to the IUPAC rules, you get different IUPAC names. Then they can have same or different functional groups, like if oxygen is present in my hydrocarbon, then it could be an ether as well as it could be a alcohol. So these are the functional group isomers. Then different physical properties they can have, that is merely due to the branching of the chain. That maybe you have seen the straight chain hydrocarbons and branch chain hydrocarbons. So their physical property has changed, although they have same formula. But in case of the branch chain isomers and your different type of straight chain hydrocarbons, their melting point, their boiling point, everything becomes different, and due to that they display different chemical properties as well. So the structural isomers or constitutional isomers, they are having same molecular formula, but their IUPAC name is different. The functional group present in them, this could be different. Then they can have different physical properties and different chemical properties. Now the second category we have is stereoisomers. So stereoisomers, they differ only in the way the atom has oriented in the space. Rest of everything is same. They have same molecular formula. They have a similar type of bonding, same functional group, but only difference is the orientation of the molecule in the space. So they differ in the configuration, its particular three-dimensional arrangement. So that configuration may be different. They have identical IUPAC name, right? But how you differ them? You put an R or S before them, or you put a Z or E before them, or you put a cis or trans before them. But their IUPAC names are similar. So that is a very unique type of characteristic, just making a difference from the positional or structural isomer. They have different IUPAC names, but in case of our stereoisomers, their IUPAC names are identical. So how you identify two different isomers? So suppose we identified the configuration as R, or it could be S configuration followed by the IUPAC name of that compound. So therefore you give different names to two different stereoisomers. Now another thing is they always have the same functional group. Like in the previous slide, we saw that two isomers, two stereoisomers we saw, malic acid and fumaric acid. So in the malic acid you have two carboxylic acid group, and in the fumaric acid also you have two carboxylic group. But the only difference is in the malic acid both the carboxylic groups are present on the same side. So you call it a cis isomer, and in the fumaric acid carboxylic groups are present on the two different sides of the molecule. So you call it a trans isomer. But otherwise everything is same. The bonding is same, presence of functional group is same. They have same IUPAC name also. But how you identify them? You just put a this prefix cis or trans before their name. So in this manner you can identify these stereoisomers. Now, these stereoisomers, because you have to show the 3D orientation of the molecule, and that is not possible on paper, right? If you have to see the 3D arrangement of a molecule, you cannot use a two-dimensional medium. So, three dimension is when you have X, Y, and Z coordinates. But on the paper, when you are representing a molecule, only two coordinates are available, right? X and Y. So, how will you represent the molecular arrangement on the Z coordinate? How will you do that? So we have some stereochemical representations for that. So these are stereochemical representation. They help us to draw the three-dimensional structure of a molecule on plain paper. Okay. So we have four different type of such representations, and they depend what we want to reflect in the molecule, what change, what three-dimensional structure we are going to show in the chemical compound. So we can have a wedge hashed bond structure, we can have Fischer projection, then Sawhorse projection, and finally the Newman projection. So these four methods are available with us. With the help of them, we can show the stereo chemistry. We can show the 3D dimension, 3D orientation of the molecule on a plane of a paper itself. So otherwise, when we are studying the stereochemistry, we also look the 3D structure by using some models also. But when you are writing on paper, you require these representations. So first of all, let us see the wedge hashed bond structure. So in this type of representation, a wedge actually represents that the group is towards the viewer, and a hatch is showing that group is away from the viewer, right? So it is done for the molecule containing chiral center or chiral carbon. What is the chiral carbon? Chiral carbon is a carbon atom that has four different substituents. We know that when the carbon is containing tetrahedral structure, when the carbon is sp3 hybridized, it is having a tetrahedral structure like this, okay? And when it is in the tetrahedral structure, in that case, when all the groups are different, if you put a mirror here, and if you see the image of this carbon, if you see the image of this entire molecule, you will get two non-superimposable mirror image. The two mirror image you are getting, they are different from each other. So in that case, you call this carbon as chiral carbon. So we will discuss later on the chirality and optical activity of the molecule. This will be covered later on in this chapter. Right now, if you see here, this carbon atom, which is having a tetrahedral structure containing all four different type of groups. Now they have their 3D orientation different. If you see this methyl group, it is towards us, it is towards the viewer. And if you see this chlorine, this is in the plane of the molecule. Then this bromo, this is also in the plane of the molecule. And this hydrogen, this is away from the viewer. So this is the 3D configuration. Now when you have to show this on the paper, how will you do that? So if we are using the wedge hashed bond structure, in that case, now if your group is in the plane of the molecule, like the bromo and the chloro groups, they are in the plane of the molecule. So you draw them with the help of a simple line. So they are represented by a simple line, and the group which is towards the viewer, it is shown by the wedge, and the group away from the viewer behind the molecule, you show it by hatched bond. So therefore it is called as wedge hashed bond structure. Wedge bond and hashed bond. Wedge is when the group is towards the viewer. H is when the group is away from the viewer. And the straight line, the simple line, shows that the group is in the plane of the molecule. So you can imagine it like this. Okay, if your group is above the plane of the molecule towards the viewer, it is a wedge bond structure, and if it is below the plane of the molecule, like this, so you call it what? A hash bond structure. So you represent it by a hash bond structure. So this was the very first representation, that is wedge hashed bond structure. The example is taken here. We have this ethylene molecule, and 3D directions they are showing here. So we have two carbon atoms and three hydrogens. All the carbons, they are sp3 hybridized. So this 3D configuration, if you represent it on the paper, you have only two dimensions with yourself. So how will you do that? If you are using the wedge hatch bond structure, then the two carbons you will draw on the plane of the paper, right? They are in the similar plane. Then the two hydrogens, they are in the plane of the molecule. So they are at the same plane. This is a plane. So they are at the same plane. But when you see this hydrogen, this is a hashed bond structure. So this hashed bond structure is showing that the your hydrogen is below the plane of the molecule, that is away from the viewer, and the wedge is showing bond is above the plane of the molecule, above the plane of the paper. So if you imagine a plane here, a paper, if you insert into the molecule, then the two hydrogen, they will be above the paper and two will be below the paper. So that we are representing by using the wedge hashed bond structure. So now another example is given here. This wedge is representing your ethyl group present above the molecule, and methyl is below the molecule. Similarly, this amide is actually, this amine group is above the molecule, and this hydroxide is below the molecule. So this is a wedge hash bond structure in the cycloalkane. And when such structure is possible on carbon, it becomes chiral. So the chirality is basically, it arises due to the tetrahedral structure of sp3 hybridized carbon. sp3 hybridization we saw in BBT, and we saw that all the molecules, they are in different directions in the sp3 hybridization, forming an angle of 109.5 degrees. And if this is the case, that all the sp3 hybrid orbitals, they are occupied by different groups, so what happens? You will get two non-superimposable mirror images, and we call this phenomena as the chirality. So the second method we have is the Fischer projection. So Fischer projection is two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional structure, and the formula usually done for molecule containing chiral center and the chiral carbon, just like the wedge hatch structure we saw. But now the chiral carbon makes a cross with the carbon atom at the intersection of the horizontal and vertical line. So it is simply represented by this horizontal and vertical line, and the horizontal line, it represents what? Bond above the plane, the front or wedge. Okay, so that we are showing by using a horizontal line. and the vertical line, they represent the bond below the plane. So above the plane, horizontal line. So this bromine and hydrogen, they are above the plane of the molecule. If you insert a paper here inside this molecule, from here if you insert a paper, then you saw that the bromine and hydrogen are above the plane, right? And the cyanide and amine, they are below the plane. So for above the plane, you will use a horizontal line. Below the plane, you will use a above the plane, you are using the vertical line, horizontal line, and below the plane you are using the vertical line. So in this manner you can represent the different orientation of all these four groups. And now this carbon is a chiral carbon, when all the groups, they are different, and also their orientation is different. So two bonds are coming out of the plane are on a horizontal plane, and the two remaining bonds, they are going into the plane are on the vertical plane. So in this manner, you represent the three-dimensional structure of your chiral carbon by using the Fischer projection. Fischer projections, they are basically used for the depiction of carbohydrates. If you have seen the structure of glucose, fructose, mannose, they uh, uh, they have different carbon atoms, different chiral carbons, especially the fourth carbon, fifth carbon. Usually they have six carbon atom in the molecule, right? And all the six carbon atoms, they have different groups on them. So two or three chiral carbons could be present in a simple carbohydrate. And when you represent their structure, 3D configuration, generally we are using the Fischer projection method. So you should remember this. It is especially for the depiction of carbohydrates. So here you can see the Fischer projection of ethane, like we have seen in the case of wedge hatch structure. So these two carbons, they are in the plane, so they are represented by the intersection of these two lines. Now, this is the hashed structure when you are representing them on the vertical line, and this is the wedge structure when you are representing them on the horizontal line. Horizontal line towards the viewer, and vertical line is away from the viewer. This is the three-dimensional to two-dimensional conversion of the structure. So in the actual carbohydrate, now you can see this is D glucose and this is L glucose. They both are glucose. They both have similar formula. They both have similar type of functional groups. They both have a similar arrangement of the atoms, but the only thing is they have chiral carbons here. So if you look at this intersection is representing a carbon, right? And all the four groups, or the four valency of the carbon containing different functional groups. Therefore, this is a chiral center. And at this chiral center, your glucose molecule, if the hydrogen and hydroxide, they are oriented like this, then you get a D-glucose. And if it is a reverse, if the OH is here and H is here, you get L-glucose. So these are again a type of nomenclature that is applied for different carbohydrates, D and L configuration. So we will discuss that also in the coming lectures. We will discuss this. So the only difference between these two glucose, this actually changes the activity of the glucose itself. So the only difference is the OH is here and OH is on the opposite side at the carbon number 5. So this is the Fischer projection formula. Now the Saw-Horst projection. So in the Saw-Horst projection, you show the interactions between the groups on the adjacent carbon atom. So how you represent a molecule by Saw-Horst projection? So again, take the example of ethane, and the two carbons of ethane, they are showing like this, and then the hydrogen, they are at the three different directions, so you are representing them like this. So this formula is used to show the interactions. Similarly, you can write it like this also, the CH3. Here what? Here all the hydrogens are similar, so you can write any hydrogen at any place. But if CH3 molecules are present as a substituent, right, then you have to show that at which part of this molecule the CH3 is present. See, if all the groups are same, then you need not to show their configuration. If all are hydrogen, then what is the difference? So when substituent is present, then comes the role of stereochemistry. So if the CH3 group is present on each of the carbon, then the position of the CH3 in the three-dimensional space that needs to be represented here. So you can see the CH3, they are in the plane of the your carbon atoms, but the hydrogen, these hydrogens are from the viewer, towards the viewer, and the two hydrogen, this one and the one hydrogen that is behind this carbon atom. These two hydrogens are behind the molecule. So this is the Sawhorse projection, and generally when you are representing the conformations of different molecules, then in that case we are using the Sawhorse projection method. So in the conformation, what happens? Rotation around the carbon-carbon bond takes place. Because this is a single bond, the carbon can rotate like this. So conformational isomerism is is explained by using the Sawhorse projection method. So here is the eclipsed form. When the two CH3 they are masking each other, they are overlapping it with each other. If you rotate the molecule like this in this direction, you keep it fixed. This carbon one is you're keeping it fixed, and you're rotating the carbon number two on its axis. So now what happened? You have rotated the carbon number two, and now the orientation is now what? It is staggered form. Now the CH3 they are in two different directions. They are not masking each other, and therefore the conformation is having lesser energy, and you get a more stable form. So, with the help of these Sawhorse formula, you are explaining the conformational isomerism. Then the last is the Newman projection method. So, in the Newman projection, we are basically representing the conformational relationships, and we show their interaction. So, it is like you have put a molecule like this, and in the straight direction of your vision, you are seeing the carbon atom, and rest of the substituent they are seen around that. So, actually, such type of formula, such type of 3D configurations, you can identify the steric hindrance by such formula. What is steric hindrance? When each atom occupies a certain amount of space, atoms are brought too close together and leads to the high energy due to the overlapping electron cloud. So you know that if two groups are present so close to each other, they will have their individual electronic cloud, and the repulsions between the electronic cloud of two closely placed functional groups, you call it steric hindrance. And whenever steric hindrance exists in the molecule, it is actually increasing the energy of the molecule. So how do we write the Newman projection formula? So we imagine ourselves taking a view from one atom, usually a carbon atom. If you are taking the ethane molecule, then you have two carbon atoms. So you look it like this, one carbon and two carbon. And all the substituent, you see it like around the molecule. So we imagine ourselves taking a view from one atom, usually a carbon, directly along a selected bond exists to the next atom, usually a carbon atom. So if you see this ethane molecule like this, you will see both the carbons in the same direction. So on this one line, both the carbons are situated. So what we are showing, this circle is showing the carbon, which is suppose this is your carbon number one, and this is your carbon number two. So this circle is representing your rear carbon, that is carbon number two, and this point, this intersection, it is showing your carbon number one. So this is your carbon number one and carbon number two. Now you will show the relative position of the substituent present. So you see here this is a hydrogen and this is a hydrogen. They are facing each other, and the other two hydrogens they are also facing each other on both the carbon. So you draw it like this. These two hydrogens they are facing each other. So basically they are masking each other, and like we saw in the previous slide that this is the eclipsed form. They are masking each other. They are covering each other. Now see, when only hydrogens are present on the molecule, this is not making a difference. But when we have a different substituent present, like suppose if in the place of this hydrogen, suppose you have an alkyl group or an aryl group or some bulky substituent is there, then such interactions matters a lot. and they are increasing the energy of a particular structure by even masking each other or staying away from each other. They changes the structure, they changes the molecular energy, and therefore what happens, they govern the reactivity of the molecule in this manner. So uh, this was the Newman projection. So in these four type of representation, we show the 3D configuration of a molecule. Now we have seen that in the case of stereoisomers, the only difference between the isomer is their three-dimensional configuration. That is the arrangement of different molecules in the three dimension. So what are the different possibilities in this manner? We know that the stereoisomers have their atoms connected in the same sequence, so they both have same functional group, they both have same IUPAC name. But when they differ in the arrangement of their atom in the space, we can have conformational isomers, optical isomers, and configuration isomers. So you can say that stereoisomerism is of three types. This is conformational isomerism, optical isomerism, and configurational isomerism. So from your syllabus point of view, we have optical isomerism mentioned in very detail. We will not go for the conformational isomers, and configurational isomers a little bit we will discuss. So how will you define, how will you identify what is the relation between two molecules if they have same formula? How will you define the relationship between them? So here we have a flow chart. The possible relationships between the two molecules. So first of all, what you check? You will check whether they have a same molecular formula. No, if they don't have same molecular formula, then they are not isomers. But if they have same molecular formula, yes, then they are isomers. Now, if they are isomers, then you will check the connectivity of the atoms inside the molecule. Now, if all the atoms have the same connectivity, then they are stereoisomers. But if the connectivity is not similar in the two isomers, then they will be positional or constitutional isomers. Then we have different categories of constitutional isomers, but that is beyond the scope of this lecture. We are not discussing them. If the isomers they have a similar connectivity and yet they are isomers, then what is making a difference? That is the 3D configuration of the atom, due to which we have two isomers because the connectivity is same. So if the two type of molecules they have same molecular formula, they have same connectivity, so you are getting stereoisomers. Now at this point, now you have to decide what type of stereoisomerism is present in your molecule. So how will you decide that? You will see that if the molecule is having non-superimposable mirror images, so you will draw imaginary plane and you will place your molecule at one part, and then you will draw a mirror image of the molecule itself. Now, after getting the mirror image of your molecule, if the two mirror images they are non-superimposable, that is, if you put one image over the other image and the structure is not similar, then you are getting the non-superimposable mirror images. So if you are getting a structure like that, you are getting two enantiomers. So what are enantiomers? They are the stereoisomers which are non-superimposable mirror images of each other. And if this is not the case, you are getting two diastereomers. So what are diastereomers? They are the stereoisomers, but they are not mirror images of each other. So in this manner, you come to a conclusion what type of stereoisomerism is present in your molecule. So this is the example of your constructional type of isomers. So here you can see the isomers are two or more molecules that share the same molecular formula. So they have the same molecular formula C6H12, C6H12, cyclohexane and 1-hexene. So here the connectivity is different, right? This is a aliphatic compound and this is a cyclic compound. So here you have one double bond and here you do not have any double bond. So only the connectivity is different with the same molecular formula. So you get a constructional isomers. Similarly, C3H6O2, C3H6O2, this is the empirical formula. But if you draw the possible structures, you can get a propionic acid from this formula or 1 hydroxy 2 propanone from the similar formula. So these are what? These are the constructional isomers. Then what makes difference in the stereoisomers? So here we have same connectivity but different arrangement in the space. So because the rotation is not possible when your compound is containing a double bond and this rotation around carbon-carbon axis is not possible, then what happens? You will get two stereoisomers. So how you get that? You can see this is the formula of 2-hexene. So in the 2-hexene, due to the restriction of rotation at this place, this hydrogen, it is changing its position and now it can be above the molecule like this, or it can be below the molecule like this. So you get E and Z configuration of 2-hexene because they have same IUPAC name. How will you differentiate these two different compounds, these two different isomers? You put a prefix here, E and Z. That is actually determining the configuration of the groups present. We will learn later how you give such configuration to a molecule. Similarly, here also you have C6H12 and C6H12. The only difference is their RNS configuration, that is the wedge enhanced structure of the CH3 and H. So they are the two non-superimposable mirror images and it shows the presence of stereoisomerism. So in the stereoisomerism, you have conformational isomers which actually differs by rotation about single bond, and generally the conformers rapidly interconvert at the room temperature. So the essential condition for the conformational isomerism is your molecule is containing carbon-carbon single bond, and when they have single bonds only, they can rotate around that bond, and different relative positions of the groups present on the two carbon atoms. This give you different conformers of the similar compound, and they all differ in their energy. That we have seen that if the groups on the two carbons, if they are masking each other, then the energy of the molecule will be high due to the steric hindrance. And if they are not masking each other, facing two different sides on the two different carbon, this is your staggered conformation, and the energy of the such conformer will be low. So this is the conformational isomerism, and it is only present when your molecule is containing carbon single bond carbon. Then you can have configurational isomers, and the configurational isomers are differing in their relative position. So they can have double bond or they cannot have double bond. That depends. They are generally, if the mirror images, you call them enantiomers, and if they are not mirror images of each other, you call them diastereomers. Like in case of the malic acid and fumaric acid, the very first example we took, they are the diastereomers because they are not the mirror images of each other, but yet they are differing in their configuration. So they are the diastereomers. So mirror images you get, they are the enantiomers. If you are not getting mirror images and yet you have the configuration different, then you call it diastereomers. So this is the same concept explained here. In the case of diastereomers, what is the difference? So in the cis part, you have similar groups present on the same side, and on the trans isomer, you have different groups on the opposite side. So what is making a difference here? This double bond. When the double bond is present, it is restricting the rotation, and therefore you get cis and trans type of geometrical isomers, which are known as diastereomers. So this is a very common type of isomerism present in the alkenes. Then from the today's lecture, I have a question for you. You have to identify the structure. You have to consider the structure and identify the type of isomerism present in this structure. So take a screenshot quickly, and later on you will see how these two type of molecules, they are diastereomers. You have to find it out by yourself. Then these are the references for today's lecture. That is all from my side for today. Thank you so much.